Hi, this is Jared from Shoegnome, and today I want to talk about schedules, Archicad properties, and Archicad classifications. Mostly I want to talk about schedules, but to explain how I use schedules, I need to talk about properties and classifications as well. So let's dive right in. Right here, we're looking at a window schedule. I've got the ID, some manufacturer, operation type. You can read across the screen what I have all there. Before I get into the details of that, let's just talk a little bit about schedule setup. So over here, I've got show headline, where I can see what's happened is I've taken the first schedule field, which for me is this term not ganged, and made that a headline. That becomes useful if I jump over to this file real quick and open up this schedule. You can see the headline is the A's, the B's, the C's, and the not gang. So I'm able to use that headline to structure the data the way I want. Also on this side, you can set text style, whether text wraps, cell borders, whether you want lines or not. Not a ton of options, but I find that that's kind of the prettiest. So that's some graphics. You can also change how things are organized, whether it's vertically or horizontally. Obviously, this schedule is not set up well to do it vertically. So let's now go look at the scheme settings here. This is where the real important stuff is of the schedule. There's two things we're looking at. At the top is the criteria. This is how Archicad decides what is going to be in the schedule. And down here at the bottom, these are the fields, what shows up in the schedule. So for my window and door schedules, I have everything set up to use Archicad classification rather than tool type. This will make sense when I show an example a little later, but basically instead of saying, okay, schedule, show me everything using the door tool or using everything using the window tool, I'm looking for everything classified as a door or everything classified as a window. Beyond that, the renovation status, I'm showing just new, but it could be existing, to be demolished, etc. Position, this is another Archicad property, which I'm going to explain a little bit later. Exterior, interior, undefined. It used to set up window schedules to be based on tool type and then layer. So a window would show up on the exterior window schedule if it were in a wall that was an exterior wall and it was using the window tool. But that's not very refined, and you can run into issues where you have a window that's on an exterior wall but it's not an exterior window because, say, the wall is partially interior, partially exterior because it, travels into the building. So anyways, using position is more flexible. I'll show that in a moment. Then I have some custom properties about glazing, condition space, and show on schedule. These are different ways to, again, strip out information from the schedule. So if I have a door, but I don't want it on the glazing schedule because it's a solid door, I have glazing not checked for it. Same thing if I have a door or window in a garage and I don't want that showing on the condition space, I just have this property that says condition true. And then finally, on all my elements, I have an Archicad property that's show on schedule, and this can be true or false, because sometimes you have an element in the file that meets all the criteria, but for some reason you still want to hide it. Maybe it's client provided or, well, whatever the reason. Sometimes you want to hide something from the schedule, but have everything else set up right, so this is kind of the overarching thing. Now, so that's how we decide what's in the schedule. Below that are the fields. And so these are the different pieces of information that show up in the schedule. And so I've got a bunch of different things. You can now add criteria by clicking this button or add fields. You can find all the things. And then you move them up and down depending on where you want them to be. Now you notice there are some little symbols here. These down arrows are how things are sorted. So if you want everything to be sorted by element ID, you can have this, you click these buttons and it will be alphabetical by that. So for instance, in my schedule Here, it's going by, ganged unit first, and then next is size, then quantity. And then over here, these little sigmas are how is allowing Archicad to tally up the numbers in there. So if we look at, let's go down to window, door, opening, nominal surface area, we see got the little sigma here. We go up here to the schedule, we can see that it's adding those numbers together. If instead we clicked that button, it would just give you a quantity. It's adding two things there rather than adding those numbers together. I want to jump over to this schedule real quick and look at its scheme settings. So you can see here on that other schedule, I didn't have hot link an element ID with down arrow. I had some other things scheduled, so the sorting would be weird. So if we look at this schedule right now, we can see it goes A, then B, then C, then not ganged, D101, D102. So it's all in alphabetical order. If I unchecked that and then say did by quantity and hit OK, this schedule is now going to resort and it's no longer in alphabetical order. Quantity wasn't a good one to do. Let's do by width. So now you can see it goes ABC, not ganged, but then it puts the smallest windows, then the next smallest, etc., down to the biggest. So under scheme settings, you just want to play with these to figure out where you want those. And that's descending, that's ascending. So here it's now backwards for alphabetical order. So let's put it back there. The last little symbol here is this flag. This is basically a subtotal. So if I click this and I say subtotal for ganged unit, then you'll see here that I have the total VGA added up for just the A unit, just the B, just the C, and then all this not gang stuff down there as well. Sometimes that's useful. Okay, what else do I want to look at the schedule? So there's a combination of things in the schedule that are stuff that you type in, little checklists that you pick from, numbers you could type in and change, yes, no things. And so where did all this stuff come from? This comes from the element in the Archicad properties. So I'm going to jump back over to this file real quick, and we'll look at that. So here we have a window. And over here in the info box, or we can go into the selection settings down here under classifications and properties. Here, I'm going to use the info box, but it's all here too. We can choose the classification. And here's where we can choose whether it's a window or a door or a skylight or whatever the classifications are. And then below here, here's all the Archicad properties. So here's the ID, here's the position, right? Interior, exterior, I mentioned. This is some stuff that I've created. So if you're using my template, which all this stuff is in, you get that information. And then here's just a bunch of other properties, which I'm going to gloss over just because it's a whole thing unto itself. But what I want to show you with that is, so we have the schedule right now. I've got one window and one door. But if you look on this file, you can see I've got actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows and doors. Now, why that is all about the scheme settings, right? So I want doors, windows, new, exterior, glazing, etc. So this window doesn't show up because it's existing. So let's call this W102 just so we can notice it. Let's make it a new window. Now, if we go to the schedule, there it shows up. We can make this existing window. Now I've got this toilet, right? This toilet doesn't show up. But if we go to the classification and we change the toilet and classify it as a window, now when we go to the schedule, It didn't show up. Why didn't it show up? Because it is an existing toilet and it's an interior toilet. So if we make this an exterior toilet and we say this is going to be new, now all the criteria should align. And now here's our toilet on the window schedule. You wouldn't do this, right? This is not a normal thing to do, but sometimes you would have an object or you have something that's not a window or door tool that you want to put on the schedule. Maybe it's a skylight, maybe it's, I don't know, a window toilet. But anyways, so once it's here, now we can type in the manufacturer, we can call it a double hung, we can change its size, we can give it all this information. And the reason why all this works is this is stuff that's all attached to the window classification. So let's go take a look at that. So if we go to, actually let's go to Property Manager. So here's all our properties. So operation type, this is an Archicad property that I've created. It's an option set. Its default value is undefined, and then under option setup, I've just typed in all these different window types, and you can add more. You can, move them around the list if you want. And what that allows me to do is go and just select whatever one. Is this a double hung? Is it a fixed window? Is it a shower door? Unfortunately, the out-of-the-box Archicad objects don't have this information in a way that's usable from the schedule. So for instance, this window here is a double hung, but the only place it shows that it's a double hung is its name, WW double hung 24. And so to use that information is just not as easy or nice. So I've just created an Archicad property that allows me to change. And then this is great because it gives me the flexibility for when an object doesn't properly match its operation type. So that is some basics of schedules. Let's see, what else do I want to show you? Because there's a lot and there's just too much to cover. Let's look at interior door schedule. So one of the nice things about an interior door schedule is you can schedule it by level. So let me jump to a more complicated file. We can see under scheme settings, the top is home story. You can see all my criteria there. And then I've turned on the headline so that it lists the lower level doors, then the main level doors, and the upper level doors. So it's got all that, which is great. And then it's got the from room and the to room. So how this works is it is looking at the zone. And so when you place the door, it's looking, there's the outside, there's where it swings. So I think if I did this right, when we go to the door schedule, we're going to see two doors. This is the new one, that's the old one. We've got the from and the to. And let's see if I flip it, see if I can get it to, yeah. So now I flipped the door. I used the little flip command, and now it has the to and the from reversed. So depending on how you place the door, it will decide the from and the to, which just might mean a little finessing if you want your schedule to be, perfectly correct. So with these from and to rooms, Archicad can be a little finicky in this regard. And so if the room is not the right renovation filter, so I just made this one existing, this should have gone away. The other thing is if you're just slightly away from it, let's go rebuild this. See, the room becomes undefined because it's not touching it. And now let's see if we're touching it. It still doesn't show up, and that's because it's set to existing. And so now if we go back and I go here and rebuild schedule, now it comes back. So when you're doing this to and from room, you have to be very careful about the renovation filters and then making sure that, if you're just like, that much off, it looks like it's there, but Archicad can't see the zone touch the wall. And that's the trick. The zone has to touch the wall for it to be connected. Okay, that's a lot to digest. Let's see what else I want to show you. Okay, so I've got three fills here, and you can schedule fills, which is pretty great. So I've just set up a simple schedule. It's the fill tool. This is just picking what layer it wants, and I want the element ID in the area, and there it is. But those numbers are, 61.99, 45.79. That's all kind of annoying. So under dimension styles, again, if you're using my template, this is all baked in. But if you change the dimension style, it should have worked. Let's go to the floor plan. So here, if you change the dimension style, you can see the dimension style has different levels of accuracy and description of what that information is. And so here in the schedule, if you want to change this, we just have to go find the right place here. Decimals, I think 0, so calculation units and rules, there it is. So here, I've just changed the calculation units and rules for the schedule so that it's cleaner. That's a whole other can of worms. I'm kind of glossing over this, but that's how you refine that so that you have nice, pretty numbers rather than, some crazy numbers there. Let's see if there's anything else I'm going to show you. So let's jump back to this file real quick. Got the interior door schedule in my template, again, not to just promote my own work, but as you know, it's free to download at shoegnome.com. All this stuff is there for you to play with. So I have room schedules here, and this is showing by by level, the ID, the room name, the area has been rounded, and then the type. So this is just the zone category, so we can do that. A lot of this stuff is set up for, deeper levels of information in like data gathering. Other things, here's the appliance schedule for the project. I've clearly not set this up to use it, but it's all there, right? What room it's in, dishwasher, or like what the label is. So this situation is related zone name. So objects know what zone they're in, so you can get a list of objects by zone. Not all things can do that, but objects can, which is pretty great. Let's see, the lighting schedule, I think in this file looks pretty good. So here we got two things. We got this lighting schedule, which is just showing the ID, the quantity, the schedule note, and it's a lamplight fixture, etc. And then here is a slightly different version of it. It's the same information up at top, same criteria, but here it's the related zone, the ID, the model number, the manufacturer, schedule note, all that. So we get, more information here. I think I'm going to wrap this up by talking about window types. So here's a window type schedule where it's showing the 3D front elevation, the size, schedule note. If you wanted here to add the either the element ID, we can type in here element ID, put that at the bottom. And this schedule is going to get a lot longer because it's now giving every single each thing with a unique ID gets its own label, right? These two windows are the same, but they're numbered 205 and 206, so they show separately on the schedule. If we remove this, these now become one, right? So on a schedule like this, if you wanted to create like window types, you just add a field, and I'm just gonna find some general one. I'm going to use this custom text, which I don't advise using because it's not an Archicad property, and that's a whole other topic. But you could do this, and then this could be like type 1, and this could be type 2. So you could sort the window types that way. The other thing you notice, there's this little annotate button. So if you are showing the view, you can click on that, and then you can come in here and use tools, either lines, polylines, labels, dimensions, whatever, and note that all up. So this is now a 20-minute video, so I'm going to stop here. I hope this schedule information was all valuable and helpful. Like I said many times, all this stuff is in my template, so download the template, try this stuff out, follow along with the video, and if you have any questions, just ask. Thanks. Oh, I should also add one last thing. This was all done in Archicad 24, so if you're using an earlier version or a newer version of Archicad, some things might be changed, but as of 2021, this is all how it works. Thanks.